It elevates the spirit and intoxicates the senses. It is the elixir of the gods. Each year, in all wine-growing regions of the world, millions of tons of grapes are harvested and go through a long process until they become wine. But how is grape wine made with feet? Discover how the best wines are produced using a traditional and laborious method. The production of grape wine with feet is a traditional technique that has been used for centuries in many wine regions of the world. Although advanced technologies have been introduced in wine production today, the process of treading grapes with feet is still preserved in some wineries as a tribute to history and wine craftsmanship. This method can offer unique and distinctive results in winemaking. It is a very traditional and laborious method, but it remains the one that produces the best wines. The selection of grapes begins with the evaluation of the right time for harvest. This depends on several factors such as the grape variety, vineyard location, and weather conditions. The grapes must be ripe, but not overripe, as excessive ripeness can result in a wine with too much alcohol and less acidity. Grapes grow best in temperate climates, but if the grapevines are well protected, they can survive severe winters. The riper the grapes, the sweeter the wine will be, so vintners wait as long as possible before harvesting their crop. As grapes grow on the vine, sugars derived from photosynthesis develop inside them. Before starting the harvest, vintners and winemakers carefully evaluate the vineyard to determine the optimal time for harvest. This involves considering factors such as the sugar content of the grapes, acidity, pH, and flavor of the grapes. These values help vintners make decisions about when to harvest. The grape harvest begins in September. It's the time when all the hard work of the entire year bears fruit. In California alone, more than 3 million tons of wine grapes are harvested annually. Workers move through the vineyard and select ripe and healthy grapes from the clusters. They look for grapes that have a uniform color and intact skin, indicative of proper ripeness. Damaged, discolored, or disease-affected grapes are discarded. Samples of grapes are taken from different parts of the vineyard to ensure that all harvested grapes are in optimal condition. Harvesters pick the grapes by hand, cutting the clusters with scissors to avoid damaging the plant. Using pruning shears, workers carefully cut the selected grape clusters. They cut the cluster as close as possible to the main stem of the vine without damaging the grapes. During harvest, care must be taken not to crush or damage the grapes, as any damage could negatively affect the quality of the wine. Freshly harvested grapes are stored in baskets for transport to the winery. During loading, excessive pressure on the grapes is avoided, as this can cause them to break and start releasing juice. Grapes are fragile and must be treated gently. Depending on weather conditions and the distance between the vineyard and the winery, keeping the grapes at an appropriate temperature during transport may be considered. This is especially important if grapes are harvested in warm climates, as heat can initiate premature fermentation or damage the grapes. Efforts are made to keep the time between harvest and the arrival of grapes at the winery as short as possible. This minimizes the risk of grape deterioration and ensures they arrive in optimal condition. When the grapes arrive at the winery, an initial inspection is carried out to verify their quality. The aim is to ensure that the grapes are clean and that there are no impurities or residues. The grapes are weighed to record the total quantity of grapes received. This record is important for tracking and inventory control during the winemaking process. Before beginning the grape treading process, it is essential that the containers are clean and properly disinfected. This is important to avoid contamination of the must and the final wine. The grape treading process is a key stage in winemaking, where ripe grapes are broken to release their juice, which will then be used in fermentation. Although machines are used for this purpose in most commercial wineries today, manual treading with feet remains a tradition in some small wineries. The people who will participate in the treading process must thoroughly wash their feet and legs to ensure they are clean and free of dirt. This is essential to maintain the hygiene of the process. The feet are disinfected using a mild disinfectant solution to ensure that no unwanted microorganisms are introduced into the must. The grapes are placed in a large, sturdy container such as a wine press, which is clean and prepared. This centuries-old ritual begins with an operation known as the cut. This is the most difficult stage of treading, when the grapes are still relatively intact. During the cut, the treaders interlock their arms and move slowly slowly through the wine press in a tight row, stomping in unison to extract the pulp and juice from the grape skins. People carefully tread the grapes to break them and release the juice. A gentle and uniform movement is used to avoid damaging the seeds, as excessive crushing of the seeds could release bitter flavors to the must. The treaders work individually, moving freely around the wine press to ensure that the grape skins remain submerged below the surface. As the grapes are trodden, the juice mixes with the skins and seeds. Maceration, which is the contact of the juice with the solid parts, is important for extracting the desired flavors and compounds from the must. The maceration time can vary depending on the type of wine being produced. During this process, the color and aroma of the must are observed. Once the grapes have been trodden to release their juice and have gone through maceration to obtain the desired flavors, it is necessary to extract the juice from the must to continue with the winemaking process. The must is transferred from the treading container to the press. It is loaded into the wine press uniformly and in a controlled manner. The press is set in operation, gradually applying pressure to the must. This pressure allows the juice to be squeezed from the skins and seeds, separating it from the rest of the solid components. It is important to apply pressure slowly and in a controlled manner to avoid damaging the delicate flavors and aromas of the wine. The juice released during pressing is collected in a separate container, where it will continue its fermentation process. A sample of the must is taken to evaluate its quality, including its flavor, aroma, and chemical composition. After extraction, the solid grape remains, known as pomace, left in the press can be collected and recycled for other uses, such as compost production. Once the juice has been extracted from the grapes and separated from the skins and seeds, the resulting must undergoes a process of fermentation and aging. These are crucial steps in wine production, as they allow the must to transform into wine and develop its flavors and characteristics. The freshly extracted juice is transferred to a suitable fermentation container, which can be an oak barrel or a stainless steel tank. The container can influence the flavor profile of the wine, as different materials and sizes can contribute different characteristics to the wine. Yeast is added to the must mixture to initiate alcoholic fermentation. Yeasts are microorganisms that consume the sugars present in the must and transform them into alcohol and carbon dioxide. This process can last from several days to several weeks, depending on various factors such as temperature and the amount of sugars present. Large fermentation tanks are refrigerated, and temperature monitoring is crucial. The density of the must is monitored during fermentation to determine when it has finished. The density decreases as sugars are converted to alcohol. When the density stabilizes, fermentation is considered to be complete. Once fermentation is complete, the wine may undergo a period of aging in oak barrels. Aging allows flavors to develop and evolve over time. The duration of aging varies depending on the type of wine and the winemaker's preferences. It can be months or even years. During the aging process, wine samples are tasted to evaluate their quality and development. As the wine ages in the wood, it loses part of its volume due to evaporation. The part that evaporates literally disappears into the air through the ceiling of the winery. The effect of this evaporation is to concentrate the wine, which means it becomes denser, and its flavors and aromas become more intense as it ages in the wood. Before bottling, the wine goes through clarification and filtration processes. These are important processes in wine production that aim to remove solid particles and sediments from the wine before it is bottled. These processes help improve the clarity, stability, and appearance of the wine, in addition to ensuring its quality. The key in wine bottling is to avoid air entering, because oxygen turns wine into vinegar. Colored wine bottles protect the wine from sunlight, which can also affect the flavor. Cork has been used to cap wine bottles since ancient times because it creates an airtight seal. The wine is bottled and sealed with corks. It is now ready to be distributed and consumed. If you want to know how the delicious apple juices sold in supermarkets are made, you have the link in the description and in the first pinned comment. Give a like to the video if you enjoyed it and share it with someone else who might be interested. Also, subscribe to this channel by activating notifications to continue learning. Greetings, and see you in the next video.